Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks, is it current government policy that no state assets will be sold either partially or fully?
The Honourable Bill English on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, as the government has said many times, the government's policy is not to sell state assets in the term of this government. That means not selling an ownership interest in state-owned enterprises or Crown companies, and we have stuck to that policy. If the member is referring to tenure review and land that is sold as a result of that, tenure review has been going on since 1948.
Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the digging up and the selling off of publicly owned minerals in our national parks by privately owned firms benefit private interests?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think that's an unusual interpretation of the policy. It would be a very unusual interpretation of the policy, but with respect to the Schedule 4 consultation document, there is, I would have thought, absolutely no prospect that in this term of the government, even if you accepted her interpretation, there would be mining in any of those areas.
Supplementary question.
Metiria Turei.
Well, it's a funny answer. It's a strange answer.
Order.
So these...
Order. I do apologise, Honourable Member, but Metiria Turei had not even got a word out in asking her question before I think there was an excessive level of interjection. That's unreasonable. Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So is the 5% government share and the 95% private share of the profits from mining of state-owned minerals a full or partial privatisation of a state asset?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member may be interested in some word game around that. The fact is that mining is occurring regularly on Crown-owned land, and I've never heard that before described as any kind of privatisation. Under the previous government gave out mining licences because DOC provided access to mining to DOC estate, but we don't regard that as privatisation.
Supplementary question. So can the Prime Minister just clarify, these minerals, state-owned minerals that he plans to sell off, will they still be there for future generations to utilise, or will they be gone into private hands?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the answer to the question is obvious. If minerals are dug out of land owned by the Crown, which happens in a large number of cases right now, and they are sold, then those minerals aren't there for future generations.
Metiria Turei.
So the Prime Minister does understand then that when he sells something to someone else, it no longer belongs to him. And if he sells off a public asset, which is the mineral wealth belonging to the public, to someone else, it no longer belongs to them.
I've been listening very carefully and I've been unable to discern a question in what the member has so far said. I don't expect the member to start with a question word, but I was waiting to hear a question emerge.
A point of order, sir. I did start the question with the phrase, does he understand?
The Honourable Chairman Mallett.
I think I might be from the hut and that might be an explanation for it, but I heard the member say, does he understand? And that's a question.
I'd invite the member to repeat a question, and please make it more clearly a question, because it's actually started out, does the Minister understand that, and went on with a statement, and I think we should really have a question.
Well, does the Minister understand that when he sells something to someone else, it no longer belongs to him, and that the selling off of publicly owned minerals to private interests means they no longer belong to the public?
The Honourable Bill English.
Speaker, yes, The Prime Minister does understand that, and he's impressed with the sophisticated analysis that the Greens are applying to this complex issue.
Metiria Turei.
If the Minister, given the Minister's answer that he does not expect there to be the selling off of the state asset this term, can he confirm that it has been National's plan all along to have a fire sale of New Zealand's state assets in 2012?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, no. With respect to the position on state assets, the government has stated many times that in this term of office it would not sell state assets, and if that were to change then we would announce a position prior to the 2011 election and campaign on it.
Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. How can the public have any confidence in this Prime Minister when, in breaching a promise he made to the electorate, he still plans to dig up and sell off a publicly owned asset that is the mineral wealth of this country, destroying sections of national parks held dear to the hearts of New Zealanders across the country, and attempting to dupe the public by saying that this is not a privatisation of a public asset?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the member has made quite an interesting combination of conclusions she's jumped to and assertions she's made up with that, in that respect. The fact is the government has put out a consultation document on whether there should be mining on some Schedule 4 land. Submissions are being made on that document, and the government will then make decisions after it has heard public views on it. In the meantime, as I understand it, under the previous government which she supported, there was a considerable amount, and still is, of mining occurring on publicly owned land, generally to the benefit of New Zealanders who get good paying jobs and the service industry without major impact on the environment.
Question number 2, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker.